people were going to be able to join. Do you guys have a running list of questions for us?
Not yet.
Hi, Yuki. How are you?
Hi, Yuki.
Hi, Yuki.
You are still muted, friend. Let's see. So 1, 2, 3.
I love all your books. Yeah.
So I'm going to look through and see if we're really waiting on anybody else or if we are set to go.
What about Aubrey? And is Marcia maybe in our class?
Yes. She's not able to join. Valerie is here, yes. And let's see. Yeah, Aubrey is at Anderson Ranch and is not sure about joining. So I think we might be ready to go. Yeah. And we're recording it. So did it warn everybody that we're recording as you came in?
Yeah.
It did.
Yeah. Okay. That's a good reassurance that it's actually recording. I like it.
Is this in case we have to go to court over something like bad pottery?
Considering that it's my property, bite your tongue. Well, I'll start us off by saying how excited I am to host you all, including Linda. I got to spend a couple of weeks with her at Wabansie Community College for a long firing workshop. And so it's such a treat to have you out and to have you play with my kiln. And we're going to make some beautiful pots, make some even more beautiful memories. I'm really excited. So,
well, thank you so much. It's just my great pleasure and honor to be a part of this. I'm really, really excited about it. And to work with everybody. It's really a great privilege for me. So thank you so much.
Good deal. So let's start talking about like the logistics of the barn and getting here and accommodations, and then please hop in with any questions you might have. And then I'll have like Linda talk a lot about like the more special to her, like what we're doing for the firing technique and all that stuff. So I'm going to share my screen. I'm so overdue to get to the eye doctor. So when I hold my glasses like this, it's because I can't see, not that I'm concerned. All right. This is the barn.
It's so beautiful.
Yeah. Alex Olson took this picture, so it's like way prettier than something that I would usually get. But we had a crazy dream about having a studio and wood kiln and home all in the same spot. So this is an investment into where my husband and I will live when my kids are done with high school. So the barn and the kiln are there. My studio and my home are still 30 minutes away in Plainfield. So you can see there's 2 rooms to the barn. This smaller area is where the kiln is set up. And there's all these beautiful doors that we get to open up so that as it gets hot or smoky, or if it's rainy or snowy, like you can keep them open or closed for creature comfort. And so everything there lives there. Then this bigger part of the barn is like a efficiency kitchen. Unfortunately, no running water. We've got rain barrels for water, but full refrigerator. We've got a grill. We've got we bring the Instapot over, toaster oven, microwave. So for workshops, there's a lot of amenities there. And then over the weekend, that's where Linda and I will set up for demos and such. The land is 1 hour west of Chicago, and the Fox River is right down below. So if you want to bring fishing stuff, there's a kayak there. You know, please make sure to take time, even with a kiln installed. You just like, yeah, okay, it's time to wander down the river. Like, so, so people have camped right by the riverside, or they've camped up top. So that is an option. But it seems like so many of the participants are traveling from nearby that 1 or 0 people are camping, and then the rest tend to like commute home or get a hotel, which is, you know, more comfortable with the AC and such. Let's see. So the kiln, let me actually try and find a different picture. The overview. Here we go. So this was this is when we rebuilt it in 2020. So this kind of shows the whole kiln of it. So train kilns, it's a nice efficient design. This is the main stoke door, where we're primarily putting in wood. This is where we have the cute little starter fire down below. We've got the chamber here where all the pots go, and then the chimney. So this is the kiln room, and where we're going to be having fun stacking up all the pots and lighting the fire. Let me pause there. So what questions do you guys have about the barn and accommodations and where you're staying and all that good stuff? Oh, Aubrey, welcome.
Hey, Aubrey.
Hi, it was just great timing that I was able to make it during my workshop. So I'm glad to be here.
Oh, good deal. Yeah, so just talking through a little bit of the barn and the kiln, and you know, please let us know what questions you guys have. So
I just have a question about if we were to camp in terms of like showering or bathrooms, is that available? Or
so at the barn will be a porta potty.
okay.
And then I am a half-hour drive, and that's where showering would be. Yeah.
Okay.
It is rustic, and that is one of the main reasons. And Linda asked about the river, and yes, you can use that also, but it's definitely not like I have put in some of my marketing things that, you know, like the workshops are definitely going to progress when we move there. But right now it's a barn in 5 acres.
Well, I've lived in circumstances where I bathed in the river in the Congo as my shower for 3 months. So like that seems fine. So
you will drive right past the treatment facility. So like, I'm glad that we're downriver of that. So it gets cleaned up in Aurora, or Yorkville. So where are folks staying? And do you know yet? Do you have questions about where you're staying?
I'm staying in Yorkville.
Okay. Which hotel are you going to do?
I think it's one of those Hilton motels.
Okay.
Oh, we're coming over there then to shower.
Yeah, you can shower. It's just a regular motel. I stayed at the Super 8 last time, and that was okay.
Yeah, Yuki is so funny. Like the way you described it just sounded like it was really meh. It was.
Yeah, I mean, you know, Stephen was there, so I felt like there was a compatriot, you know.
Yes. Reika, will you be commuting the whole time?
Yes.
Okay. Sounds good. Let's see. And Will and Anne Marie are staying in an Airbnb, I believe.
Yeah, in Yorkville.
Okay. And I can't remember if you had space.
Maybe. I think so.
I think it's got like a fold out extra kind of living room thing, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Valerie, have you decided what you're going to do?
I haven't. I thought about staying in a hotel, but I'm not sure yet.
Okay. So, Are you a camper?
I haven't camped since I was like a kid, so I don't know exactly.
Yeah. And sometimes it's kind of nice to like people will like get a hotel room or whatever for a few of the days, and once the firing is going, then it's kind of nice to camp and be right there.
Yeah, that's probably what I'll end up doing, I imagine.
Yeah,
That
or
sounds like
sleeping in cars like is a thing too.
Mhm. Yeah.
Okay, but yeah, if you are looking into things and have questions, I think the Hampton Inn is slightly nicer of the
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's where I'm staying. Is
Hampton Inn.
Yeah.
I'll look.
And then I mean, if you want to look where Plainfield, Illinois is, that's where I am. And so
Okay.
that would be for driving for showers and such.
Okay.
27-minute drive. So, all right. Well, let's see. What do we want to talk about next? Should we talk about the schedule of the week? Does that sound like a plan, Linda?
Yeah, that sounds fantastic.
All right. Do you want to take the reins on that? I'm gonna...
Sure. Well, we've selected a really nice palette of chino glazes, and there's one flashing slip that should work really well with our firing. And I guess when we thought about the firing, we wanted to do something that was kind of unique and special for this train kiln. And there's a lot of different ways people load and fire train kilns, and we decided that we would have what we're calling a Chino Fest and try and take advantage of the different zones. There's basically 3 different stacks of pots. Oh, here we go. Here's the pictures. On your left is the fire.
Yeah, and let me pull up the picture of the kiln so that way we can show you like what we're talking about here. So and I'm going to go to a different picture. Okay, so you can see the firebox is behind Reka here. Hey, Reka. And then there is this big zone here. And so all of the pots that go closer to the firebox are going to get hotter. And then the chimney's over here off screen a little bit. That is going to get cooler. And so we actually climb in. This is about the size of the middle stack. And so we'll face the front and we'll be loading pots here. And then we will load the pots in the back. And then we'll hop out and we'll load the pots in the middle. But if we put over top, so my cute little drawing. So when we're talking about this is where the fire is. So the hotter pots, bottom of the kiln to top of the kiln. And then the back is where it's cooler. And yeah, top to bottom. And here's middle. All right. So Linda, you want to talk about and the pointer?
Sure. So one of the things we're trying to do is really take advantage of these 3 different stacks of pots and try to put pots that don't have glaze on in a place where they'll maybe get some ash and some flashing. And then the places where the flame will be less direct, we'll want to have a lot of the glaze things there, which would include the very top of the first stack where there won't be much flame action there. So we'll have pots that we hopefully can oxidize there and would have a little bit more of a sterile environment. So that'll be a really interesting area for certain of our chino glazes. We wouldn't have any unglazed work there, but
Can I pull up the pictures of that so they can actually see that zone?
Sure.
All right. So yeah, it's a interesting little zone because there's an arch in a train kiln. So you can see like the fire is my arrow working?
Yep.
Mm-hmm. So the fire is coming through here. And so if we stack shelves all the way up top, this is now like no longer necessarily a wood kiln because the ashes and the flames are struggling to get up there. So the way that I do that is I do tall pieces all the way to the top, but because we're playing with Chinos and somebody else is in charge of the kiln, like we're gonna have fun doing something different there.
Well, we'll see what we have that would be appropriate for there. So one of the things that I love to do is look at people's work, spend a lot of time actually looking at people's work before we start glazing even, and help make some suggestions about, I'll ask some questions about your work and do you want it to be flashed or do you want to have glaze on it? And basically my role is always to find the best spot for each pot rather than trying to just make do with what we have and fit it in like a jigsaw puzzle, but start with the premise that your work should be in the best spot for each of your pots. And I would also ask if you're interested in maybe stacking some of your work. If you have like a set of plates or a set of bowls, maybe you don't want to have any glaze on at all, or maybe you want to have just a liner glaze, or maybe you want glaze over everything. And one of the Shino glazes, I know we can actually put wadding on, the wadding will come off. So that's kind of a nice option. So before we start glazing, we'll, go through what the different glazes are and what we can expect. And then I'd like to spend quite a bit of time with each of you individually, coming up with a plan for your work to satisfy what you want. And if you don't know what you want, that's great too. Either way is great. Maybe we try a lot of different options for you to discover what you like. So I think I like in a lot of situations, the floor is sort of the underused place. The floor, like under the very first shelf. A lot of people, when they wood fire, they just put like a 2.5 inch or 2.25 inch post up from the bottom of the floor and just try to get a little air going underneath there, but they don't really see that as usable space. And I always like to capitalize on that space and actually post up fairly high and try to get, well, I don't know, depending on the load, but I try to get a lot of plates down there that are sort of one-off plates or plates that you wouldn't normally be part of a stack. So maybe one plate that's totally unglazed, and then something on top of that that maybe is unglazed on the outside, but has maybe a liner glaze on the inside where we know the glaze will melt. I don't know, where are the hot spots in your stacks?
It's like here.
Right
And-
there?
Yeah, and then it's really weird, like that, because the kiln is indoors, the wall that shares with the big barn gets much hotter than the other side. And so we actually we do some things to troubleshoot that. So we'll, I would recommend loading a lot tighter on one wall of the kiln than the other.
Okay. We can get into that later, but the rest of the kiln is pretty even, except for the back stack is always a little cooler. Is
Yeah,
that
Yeah.
correct? Yeah. So that back stack, people think, oh, that's a problem, and I think, oh no, that's an opportunity to work with different Chinos, because Chinos really behave differently if they're cool or if they're really hot. Chinos love to pick up ash, and the ash will melt into the glaze. So really, to me, the idea of having a sort of a, not a long firing, or not a firing that we fire down, like a lot of people down fire and do reduction cooling and all that. And that's really interesting and wonderful, but really the train kiln is just a Bory box, that is a cross draft and has 3 distinct zones, and then we can side stoke in between all of those stacks. So in a way, we have a lot of different zones for pots that you want to try and get some ash on, and then some quieter spots. So really, the Chinos are set up for this kind of a situation, and I'm pretty excited about that. I've done 2 other firings kind of like this. One was with a big long anagama tube that was really difficult to get hot in the back, and we really took advantage of that cooler zone. And the one chino glaze that I use on my work is kind of perfect there, because it's actually really sweet at about cone 7 without doing any work. It's actually really beautiful in a way that I like. You may not like it, but maybe I can convince you it's beautiful. But I guess with the different chinos that we're selecting, we should have a lot of variation there. And we can get it hotter than cone 7, but the chino is a nice glaze because they typically melt at a low temperature, but can take a very high temperature. So there's a whole range of surfaces we can get, and we can also layer the different chinos together. So, one that's a little melty and one that's not as melty can be really beautiful as well. So,
Does everyone know what side stoking is? Okay, sounds good.
Yeah.
Are we going to get a list of the chino glazes that we'll be working with ahead of time so we can look them up and see what they look like?
Oh, I don't know that you can really look them up and see what they look like. I mean, you can look at my work and see my chino, although I usually use it as a liner.
John,
I
has
have I have mine if you go to my website.
I own several of your pots, so I probably should just look at those.
Maybe you could take some pictures.
Well, Linda, you'll be bringing some pots to the workshop too, are you not? Bringing some of your pots?
Well, I hadn't thought about that. I mean, I never think of this as a what do you call it? A marketing thing. I never like to mix my own commerce with education, but yeah, I can bring some as examples.
Yes, at least as examples.
Capital idea. I like that. Thank you. That's a very good idea. I will bring examples of.
Yeah, we can see the different chinos at different parts of the train kiln.
Yes.
That might turn out that way, right?
Yeah, thank you. I will make note right now.
There's a website, the Kazagama website. Steve Davis has his blog on there, and he's got like just I don't know if they're the chinos that necessarily that you'd be using, but he's got like over 100 chinos, I think, with pictures of them on porcelain and different kinds of stoneware, and a lot of the I think most common ones, a lot of different Malcolm Davis ones, and just a huge variety. So there might be some on that blog that might be the same ones that you guys are picking out, and it's Kazagama.
That's a great suggestion. Thank you, Aubrey. I'll check that out and see if those match up. But I will make note of bringing like my chino on different clays, like on a porcelain, what it looks like oxidized, what it looks like reduced, and then on a black clay, and then a regular stoneware clay.
Yeah, that would be very helpful.
I know a couple of the other glazes, I think I can find some photographs at least. So I'll do some digging on that, and if I can't get a pot, I'll try to find some photographs.
Good
So
deal.
great, fantastic. I've made note.
And then I guess while we're talking materials, do you guys have questions about clay bodies?
Yes.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Sorry, I was just gonna say so since we're mostly using chino, some directions on kind of what what kinds of like iron bearing clays or things like that
Ah.
would be, I would love direction on just what clay bodies to use in that.
So
realm.
are you using Laguna clay where you are, Will?
No, I do have some Laguna clays, but I'm using kind of I don't know, Emery, would you call them some Laguna knockoffs from Play Art Center that are formulated similar
Right.
formulation?
Similar, yeah.
Okay, well, I could make some suggestions on clays that I
Please
know
do.
some Laguna clays, and I know continental clay. I know paoli clay for the Chicago people. What other clay companies are people using?
Standard.
Oh, Standard. Ooh. You know, I think I should do a little research on this, and maybe I can send out an email to everybody with a list. I think that would be good. So Standard, Laguna, what was the one, the knockoff one?
Clay Art
Clay.
Center.
Play Art
With the
Center.
Tacoma.
Clay
I
Art Center. Where
I'm-
is that?
Yes.
Where is
Well-
Clay Art Center?
It's in Tacoma, Washington,
Oh,
south of.
Tacoma. Okay.
So we have issues with their high iron clays. Oftentimes they just suck up the Shino and the Shino disappears. So
Okay.
that's been our concern. We both really like high iron clay, but it doesn't always play nice with Shino.
Okay.
Yeah.
One thing we can do is we can use a red art wash underneath a lighter colored clay body like a regular stoneware. So that'll give it a, a high iron content. That's one kind of solution to that. Or we can use a thicker as well. Have you tried that?
No,
Mm-mm.
Thicker.
thicker.
Thicker, yeah. Maybe we should mix up our chinos thick. We'll have them thick, and then we can thin them down.
Julie, note, I'm making notes too.
Yeah, Standard, I'm gonna do a little research on that. Here's what I do know about Laguna. The B-Mix is always, people always love B-Mix. B-Mix with grog. Because that's a light colored clay. So if you like a porcelain, the B-Mix is always usually pretty good in most wood kilns I've had experience with at schools.
And do you prefer the wood fire B mix or the normal B mix?
I don't think it really matters. I don't know what's the wood fire one got in it. Do you know?
Helmer.
That's different.
Helmer.
Oh, okay. I'd probably go for that one then,
Okay.
if you haven't already bought it. And I don't, there's a Laguna clay that typically is really beautiful. I've seen it beautiful in some schools I've fired with. It's called Amador. I don't know if you
Yeah.
know it. Do you know Amador?
Amador. Yeah.
Yeah, that's typically really beautiful without anything on it.
Mm-hmm. Especially reduction cooled. I don't know. Do they still make it? I haven't been able to get a hold of it.
Oh, now that's a good question. I don't know.
What
It's
about
very much like Dakota yellow. Will.
oh, okay, got it. I'm translating in my head into Washingtonian. What about aardvark clays?
Oh,
like-
aardvark. I don't know aardvark, but I will do a little research. So I'm going to research Standard, aardvark, Laguna, Clay Arts Center.
Is it okay if like I make a lot of my own clays? Is that okay as long as I know that they can withstand code 10 and above?
Definitely.
Okay, great.
Anybody use continental clay?
I
Nobody.
do as well. I use B-Mix and their wood fire porcelain a little bit.
Yeah, those two are really good, and their stoneware, regular stoneware, is really good in the wood kiln. I don't know if they have a black.
They don't.
They
No.
don't. Okay.
not yet. I know that Minnesota Clay Company now has a cone 6 black, I think. I don't know if they have a cone 10, but
Is
I boycott them. So
is that called Iron Ranger or something?
I
Ranger
think
Red
it's
or
something Iron Range or
Ranger
something.
Red or I think that's too low of a temperature for
Yeah,
us.
cone 6.
Yeah, please don't melt anything.
Yeah,
It might be interesting if you have a sample of that to make a few little rings and put those in the chimney.
yeah, I
Anything you
could
want to
get that
test?
from a friend who has it potentially. That would be a good idea.
Mhm. I will do all this research and send you all a email. I can't do it for a few weeks, but I will do that. So I can send it to Amy and you can send it around, but I promise Scouts Honor, I will research the standard aardvark Laguna Clay Art Center, and if you can think of any other that you like. I do have a Laguna clay body that I just tested in my kiln, and I can't remember the name of it, but I'll include that. I liked it a lot. I thought it was a nice sort of like a regular stoneware that I thought was pretty nice in a wood kiln. So it's got a weird name. Like it's got a bunch of letters and numbers, and it's kind of an offbeat one.
And it's not standard?
What's that?
It's not standard. Standard drives me nuts with the numbers. I can never keep track of the clay bodies.
No, I don't really
I
know
agree.
standards very well. Great.
Okay, so what day of the week are you guys arriving? Does anyone know?
I think Tuesday.
Tuesday.
Okay, so when you Linda, do you like people to show up at a certain time? Do you have any idea, an opinion on that?
What day do we start glazing actually?
Right, I would think right away. Yeah, Tuesday.
Oh, okay. Well, as I don't know. I don't live there. I don't know how far people are coming from, but I would say, as early in the morning as possible to start is always my preference.
Yeah,
Isn't the first day of the workshop Wednesday? Because I don't know what time our flight, we don't have the flight part booked yet. I figured we'd be coming in Tuesday for a Wednesday start.
Yeah,
I'm driving from Minneapolis, so that'll be like a 8-10 hour drive depending on traffic.
So you would come on Tuesday then, and we would start Wednesday morning, like 9 or something? I mean, typically schools start at 9. You start at 9 or on Wednesday, or are you hoping to start on Tuesday, Amy?
Do I have it in my calendar starting on the 17th, so I'm trying not to freak out. It doesn't really matter, I don't think, but like
I could drive down and arrive like Monday night and be ready Tuesday morning for me, at least.
I read my calendar wrong. We're arriving on Monday.
thank God.
Sorry. Sorry.
Marie, I think you texted me the 16th, so I really hope it's Monday.
And
It is Monday. Yeah.
And your flights are fine.
We'll be fine.
Okay.
We're good.
I have a tendency to get things in my calendar a day off sometimes. So like, okay, we're all right. So Tuesday morning,
Okay.
Chicagoans, traffic's gonna be bad. Should we start at 8 or 9?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they say yeah.
Yes.
9.
Yeah, let's do 9 because that'll also feel really early for the West Coast people.
Yeah, right.
So
I just came back from a New York workshop. It's gonna have nothing on that.
yeah. Yeah. So Linda, what would you mentioned really taking some time and looking at the pots before we even dive into the glazing and slipping.
Yeah, I think at 9 people would unpack and kind of sort through their pots, and I'll just be like a dog on a bone, just running around looking at people's pots, and we'll probably have a little talk about, what the glazes are. And I mean, I think we don't want to rush
Right.
the glazing. I mean, we want to be efficient, but we want to be considered and thoughtful about what we do with our pots.
Sounds
So,
good. And
yeah.
then we have, it's nice, we can do all the glazing on one side of the barn and we can make a big mess. And then we're gonna put all the pots by the kiln. And everybody will have their own table to put pots. And then we're gonna, take a look, make sure that seems equitable. And then overflow, like you can bring more pots, we might get them in, but they'll just live in the big room. And so then we can pull them over as needed if we just need the right pot.
How much should we bring, maybe?
7 cubic feet.
7 cubic feet, okay.
And sorry, are we, do they have to be bisque fired or can they be once fired?
Bisque fired, yeah.
Fired, okay.
Yeah. If there was, I mean, we could do a single fire, but if we had a single fire, it means we would have a different schedule for how fast we could ramp up the kiln. So bisquing really helps us out.
Okay.
Linda, did you want to talk about like kiln space, types of pots to bring?
Yeah, I'm trying to think how big is 7 cubic feet? If you think about the size of like a regular clay box that has 50 pounds in it, what does that, is that like 2 boxes, sort of? 3 boxes?
A clay box with the flaps up is 1 cubic foot.
Oh,
So
fantastic.
7 clay boxes.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Flaps up.
You mean with the flaps up?
The flaps up, yeah.
Oh, fantastic. That's
flaps folded
really
at half a cubic foot.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
So just to give you an idea, this is about how many pots we've unloaded.
Fantastic.
So, but
that's really great.
But it goes fast if you bring big pots.
I would suggest, figure out your 7 cubic feet of pots that for sure will go in, and we'll have that in a special place so that we know that these are the pots that have to go in. And then we'll have like, the second string, the players that we like to get in, but they don't have to get in. So we'll kind of we'll each rank our own work like that. And I'm not going to have 7 clay boxes. I want you to get your work in. I'll have a few pots, but I'm not here to fire my work. So I'm not really a participant in that way, but I'll have a few pots. So the key to our success is being very considerate about what we want to put on our own work, and then being very considerate about where's the best spot for each of our pots, and then being equitable and everybody feeling really great about what they get in. And then there'll be a lot of extra credit pots, like small pots, fillers. You can't bring enough fillers. Like in my kiln, there's 2 people that usually fire with me, and one of the people, he makes just tons of fillers, and every single filler always gets in. And I think, oh, I should make fillers. I never do, but small pots.
So would that be just like Eunomi's type of a thing?
Oh, small even.
Yeah, small.
Little.
Even small.
What they call guinomis, or little tiny plates, little tiny bowls, little tiny whatever. Always get in.
Yeah, I'll probably have like 3 small fillers that I just would love to see something from each stack.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would really encourage people, if they have like sets of plates or sets of bowls. I do a lot of rim to rim stacking, or, you know, like 4 plates stacked upside down on wadding, or even on some soft bricks. Or maybe you have some pots. I make some pots that are actually, they're really kiln fillers, or kiln furniture. I make kind of like a, I guess you call it like a little crock that has a really big fat rim on it. And I'll put 5 wads on top of that rim, and then I'll put a plate upside down on top of that crock, and then I'll put 5 more wads on top of that plate and put another plate on top of that. So I tend to stack I make the pot that has a lot of strength to it, that can take all that weight, and a big fat rim. Not everybody works that way, but it's something to consider. And maybe when we look at all of our work, I'll see somebody has a beautiful cylinder that has a big fat rim on it, and maybe somebody else's plates might fit perfectly on top of that. So I might ask, hey, would you two want to collaborate on this? And you're always free to say no. You should always say no if it's not something you want to do. But, you know, I might see some possibilities of some things on their side or upside down or whatever. So usually we have a group of pots. When I'm teaching at a school, we'll have a group of pots where anything goes kind of thing. And that's often really fun, where people are willing to let the loader sort of decide how they'll be loaded. And one of the things that we want to do, Amy and I want to do, is be sure that everybody gets a chance to be the loader, be the water. And what I like to do, and Amy likes to do this too, is we'll have people kind of preload things outside of the kiln. Like there'll be either 2 shelves or marked off on the table. Here's the size of the shelf. And you all will actually load those pots on the table, and then Amy and I will kind of look at it and go, yeah, well, you know, here's a way you could improve it. And then those pots will go into the kiln like that. So you'll be making the decisions. We'll help you make the decisions, but we want you to learn what the constraints are and what to look for and how to set the shelf up. And you'll actually be making the decisions, and we'll help you with that. So you'll learn how to load and what to look for.
I have a question about wadding. I was just curious, like what kind of wadding we would be using, because I know there's like, I like to mix in sometimes some red art or some red fire clay to make it have a little more color, and so I was just kind of curious what we would be having.
Well, Amy and I haven't talked about that yet, but I'd like to use a couple different kinds of wadding, but one is wadding that's like that. It would be Newman Red is the one I mix in with some fire clay and sand, you know, that kind of thing.
Yeah, Newman's Red is pretty much done. They're not mining it anymore.
I've got a couple 100 pounds that I stocked up. I took the last of Continental's Newman's Red. So, but they have Lazella that's also good.
We've tested we've tested that one. It looked the same to me as Hawthorne Bond. There's a laterite combo that seems to be the winner at my barn, but that could be part of the testing this time, is to
let's do some testing. I like that idea. Bring some Newman Red, Aubrey.
Okay, I will.
Yeah, that's great. We can do some testing. Yeah, and if you have some other materials you want to test too, like I know I went through a period where I was testing different grasses and laying grasses across plates. Grasses have silica in them, and certain ones like horsetail, if you have horsetail near you, I think it's called, the scientific name is like Equinus something or other. It's also called Indian scrub rush, it's called that. Horsetail, though, if you just look up horsetail, it's a very primitive plant. It's very interesting. It's like it has sections that kind of pop apart. Do you know that plant, anyone? You do? Yeah. Oh, it's kind of nice. It can be nice. I'll put that on my list to bring. Bring horsetail.
John Lowe was helping me get the barn ready today. I don't know what we were pulling and taking down, but it was a lot of weeds.
I do have a question of what to avoid. I know
What to
that
avoid?
in the past, I have tried and Amy let me to do some copper red in the back glazes. Okay. And I know that, that can also affect neighbors, right? So,
well, if you have something with copper red, I know where to put it where it won't affect
okay.
the neighbors. So, I always have the opinion, make it, we'll fire it.
Okay.
We'll figure it out. I mean, it could go in a sagger even. It could go in that spot right behind the arch. If you have it in a sagger, we can make a sagger from other pots. If that's something you want to do, we can, then it would be oxidized. It would be
hide it inside a pot. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, could be really interesting. So make it and we'll fire it. Anything's possible. The other thing that I find really important is before we brick up the kiln and, before we put the shelf on, I like everybody to be able to look in the kiln and see what it looks like, before and after. And people often like to photograph, every single shelf. And I think, oh, that's really great, because then you have a record of, what we did. And especially if it's a shelf that you loaded, you made the decisions on. Usually at a school, I like whoever loaded that shelf, they're the person that actually gets in the kiln and unloads it. So you really have some, real good understanding of what worked and what didn't work. And I don't like to rush any of that process, especially the unloading. And I like to unload it and have it in order by each shelf. This is the top shelf. This is the middle shelf. This is the bottom shelf. And so we can really learn something. So many wood firings, especially at these conferences, like at the Wabansi one, it's just this massive pots and you have no idea what happened or why or anything. I mean, unless it's your own kiln, you never really quite understand why. So I always think in this kind of a situation with the number of people we have, this is beautiful because we can really take our time and be thoughtful, both in the kiln and out of the kiln. So hopefully we can learn something. Because unless it's your own kiln, you never really know what's going on. So I don't know. That's my take on that.
Sounds good. Yeah, so the week it'll be arriving, and do you expect like the first full day would be do you think we would start loading on day one?
I always say, well, we'll start loading when the pots are glazed.
Okay.
Whatever that means.
Yeah. And then once we start firing, do you want to talk through a little bit about how that will look?
Yeah, whenever we start, we'll keep to a pretty tight schedule. I like to go about 100 degrees an hour, and there'll be a pyrometer, and I always have my cell phone number by the kiln in case I'm not there. and people can always call me, and if I'm sleeping, I want you to wake me up.
Is that 100 degrees C or Fahrenheit?
Fahrenheit. Yeah. So we'll go up to 900 degrees that way. And then I like to kind of hang out at 900 for a while, and then go up to 1,000. And then after that, we can go up about 150 an hour. And then after, 1,400 or 1,500, we can kind of let her rip. We don't really want to hold it back. And then we'll be, trying to even the kiln out. Generally we try to, I don't know how Amy does it, but train kilns I've fired, people have different times where they like to start side stoking. I guess we just have to kind of have a feel for what's going on, and we'll kind of make a call as it happens with the side stoking. I can't really predict ahead of time. I'm the kind of person that oftentimes at a school they'll hand you a book that says, oh, here's how you will fire the kiln, and I say, oh, thank you very much, and then I put that book under my bed and I never look at it, because half the fun for me is just watching the flame, listening to the flame. The flame will tell you everything. It will tell you what to do. So that's a lot of fun for me, just seeing what the kiln wants to do. And then usually it's the problems are stalling. Why isn't it getting hot? And then you get to figure out, well, it's choked. Why is it choked? What were we doing? And what can we do to correct that? So it's, for me, it's a lot of fun. And I like the students to be part of that, figuring it out. So I may know the answer, and Amy probably knows the answer, but we want to ask you leading questions that will lead you to learning about why is it not getting hot, and then you will suggest some things, and we'll go, that's a good idea, try that. And then you'll try it, and you'll have a lot more skin in the game and ownership, and we'll actually learn rather than having somebody tell you, okay, now do this. That's not really helpful. It's helpful to getting the pots fired, but it's not helpful in terms of you learning. So we're lucky we have we have the perfect size group where on your shift you'll actually learn, make decisions and learn. And
there's still so much, so much to learn even years into this process. So
yeah. I can't remember what the question was.
I think things not to do or to watch out for.
Oh, well, about the only thing I would say, you mean in terms of bringing materials to the kiln, or? Oh, okay, yeah, well, it would be recalcitrant things, which would be what? I don't know, I've heard with all sorts of things. Shells, shells are fine. We can use some seashells. Mussel shells don't work very well. I've tried mussel shells, like mussel shells that you'd find in the Fox River will not work. I do know this. I don't know about crayfish shells. I don't know about that. Grasses are good. Straw, wheat, all that kind of stuff's great. Banana peels can be interesting. They tend to be a little recalcitrant. I've used things from the ocean. I did a firing on Vancouver Island where we used everything. Kelp, we used kelp. We used everything we could find, and most things were pretty good.
So I gotta ask, we're in the land of corn. Any part of corn interesting?
I don't know. I've done some stoking with corn stalks. That's really interesting. Stoking with corn stalks. I would probably have you get some corn cobs and with the corn on it, dry, dried. They'll be picking about then. I'd get some corn, I'd get a whole bunch of corn stalks for stoking. That's really kind of fun. And maybe some corn stalks laid on plates would be interesting, in an X or a square or something. I would get a lot of corn crap myself. Dried, make sure it's dried. We don't want raw corn.
We'll be hearing the
Like
pop.
wet corn, but dried corn on the cob, like they'll be picking. Go out and pick some before they pick it.
Let's see what I can do.
Yeah. Bamboo, if you have bamboo, I've stoked with bamboo. We call it bamboom because it kind of explodes. So if you have a hole in it, bamboo is kind of interesting to stoke. I don't know about using as a, like on a plate or something. I don't know about bamboo on the plate. Does anybody have bamboo where they live?
Took my brother-in-law forever to get rid of it.
Can I put it on the airplane to bring my bamboo with me?
Of course. Yes, you can. Do you have some bamboo?
I do have bamboo. Yeah.
Yeah. I would cut some little pieces as long as it's dry. It'd be a great way to do some tests with it.
I'll see what I can do.
Yeah. I mean, you
About
could
bring
split it
ashes.
into, oh, sorry.
Oh, no, I'm sorry, I interrupted you. I was just about, since there's some areas that don't get much ash, would be bringing ashes or ash glazes be useful for some of those areas.
I think we're not going to use any ash glazes.
Okay.
I think the idea is to kind of take advantage of those places
Okay.
with our chinos, because they'll get, there'll be an area right by where we stoke, at the front of each shelf. It'll be like a hot area. It'll be like, we'll get ash there. The back stack probably won't be quite as hot, so we won't get like a hot, cone 11 ash melting, building up, pounding on there. But we'll have glaze there that will accept the ash and it will melt into the glaze. So yeah, personally, I'm not a fan of sprinkling on ash to make it look a certain way, but a lot, that's sort of an personal ethical thing. I'm kind of a what you see is what you get kind of person, but again, why not sprinkle some ash on? If you want to do that, why not? What's wrong with that? Or maybe you want to put some crushed pop bottles or something, or wine bottles or something. If you have a way to crush that up real fine, that'll melt and drip. Like I have a friend that puts that on his handles. He makes some big crocks, and he'll Mark Hewitt, he'll look at his work. You'll see these drips of green glass, and all that is crushed up wine bottles. Why not do that?
And
Well,
we got big hammers and mallets and stuff. So.
Yeah. Safety glasses. There's nothing wrong if you want to sprinkle ash on your pot. There's certainly nothing wrong with that. I myself wouldn't do that just because I work under a set of constraints. And so we all have our own personal constraints. So whatever, make it, bring it, we'll find a way to make it happen.
Okay.
And I know somebody who I'll give a slide talk on wood kilns. And one of the people I include in this talk is a guy who has a gas-fired kiln on a trailer. And at a high temperature, he blasts in, dried wood ash. I mean, why not? Why not do that? There's nothing wrong with that. it's not in my wheelhouse, but there's certainly nothing wrong with that.
I just don't get much opportunity to do reduction firings, so I do ash glazes in my electric kilns, but they look different. They look different in reduction atmosphere, and so
yeah,
for me, it's exciting.
yeah, great.
So let's see,
Well,
there's the work preparation and there's the firing time. Then there's some resting time, which is going to be needed. We've got the 2 days of making workshops. So Linda and I will be making pots, and we'll have other people join us for that time. That's open to other people as well. And then the unload. So that's kind of how the week will unfold.
And then the other part I really enjoy doing is how do we clean up our pots? Like what is acceptable to you? If a shell has stuck or the wadding stuck, or how do we address that? So I'd like to do a little session on that, and I'll bring all the little tools I use. I use just some hand tools, and I use the Dremel tool very sparingly. So we'll have a session where we talk about that, and we can look at all the different problems that will occur. There will be some problems. It's always guaranteed there'll be some things that, the wadding has shifted or something happened, and maybe it's actually even nicer than maybe the problem is better oftentimes. So I'll bring some diamond pads, and I've got something for lids. If you have lids, there's this stuff called valve grinding compound. Maybe some of you know about that, but I'm a big fan of that. I don't use it much on my work, but I'm a big fan on that. I'll put that on my list to bring, the valve grinding compound. And there's a neat tool called a flap wheel, which, does anybody have one of these? A flap wheel? No.
I love
Oh,
it.
you do?
Yeah.
Anne-Marie, you do.
I do.
Maybe
It's
take
a little one that goes on the Dremel.
Oh, can you bring that? Well, maybe you can't because
I have them.
Oh, you have them. Great. I used a big flap wheel at a school, and I thought, wow, this is really great. Well, we'll show that. And I'll bring the different kinds of diamond things.
What did you call it? Valve grind paste or
Valve grinding paste. So you get that
Compound.
you get that compound. You get it at a car parts store, and it's for grinding if you're going to rebuild your valves on your Corvette or something.
I usually do a demo of how to clean up pots during the workshop. So it's
Great.
kind of a relief that Linda will do it, because I'm so excited to see how you do it. But I have I fired a cone 1213. So I have pots at the barn. If anybody wants to see how I do it with the active ones, let me know, because I can pull you aside and show you.
Yeah, that's great. Perfect. The valve grinding compound, all it is silicon carbide
Oh, okay.
in a paste. And then you just add some water. You wouldn't want to use it on your teeth.
Very cool. Are there other things, other questions that you all have? Anything?
Are there dietary restrictions for anybody in the group when we bring food?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. How is food being handled?
So everyone provides a meal, and then if people can take care of their own breakfast, that take care of things. I'll start us off with a really big meal that will have lots of leftovers available. And then as we settle in, we'll sign up for meals. I know we've got a vegetarian in the group. What else?
I don't eat gluten or dairy.
Okay.
So,
I'm vegetarian and also I mean I eat fish, so I guess pescatarian, but I am severely allergic to shellfish. I can be in the same room with it, but if I come into contact with it, it's not good. So just warning anybody who might be eating shrimp near me, don't touch me.
Yeah. Fortunately, there's not a lot of shellfish at the bar.
I kind of figured, it's really more of a problem where we live than it is like out there.
Yeah.
Like, there's no unhappy accidents when I'm sharing meals with folks.
Yeah. I would just throw out one firing I did that was so interesting. It was a group of 25 people, and we fired for, I think, 4 days. And the way we worked out the food, I just want to throw this out because it was very unique and very wonderful. The shift that came onto the kiln, like the new fresh people that had been asleep and had a shower and everything, those people served a meal to the shift that was just leaving. That was an incredible experience. Now that didn't work out so well with the preheat. You know, the preheat where somebody's up for a few hours in the night, and it didn't work so much there, but over, I don't know, 4 or 5 days we fired. That was a beautiful thing. It's just something to consider, because when your shift is done, you really want to eat something solid, and it was sort of a nice way for the new people to be kind to the people who are on the shift.
Yeah, if you can help me to logistically figure that out, that would be amazing. Yes.
Yeah, we can think about that. And I've got several different, maybe this is your question, Aubrey. I've got several different methods of kind of figuring out our shifts, and
that was what I was gonna.
Yeah, there's many different methods to that, and I think maybe we'll just present that when we're glazing and figure that out. But there's many different methods, and I guess since I know now how many people we have, Amy and I'll sit down and try to figure out what makes the most sense in terms of number of people on a shift, and the time. It'll vary. But basically this is kind of a short firing compared to a 4 or 5 day firing. So basically we want to go 100 degrees an hour up to 900, and then hold out there for a while, and then 150 an hour, and there'll be a pyrometer, and then at some point we can just kind of let her rip. So we'll be going through more wood then, but those early hours is very special. It's such a quiet, beautiful time where only 2 people will be on. There's no reason to have 4 people on in the middle of the night. And there'll be some people who really love those middle of the night shifts. I'm one of those people. I love being on just even by myself. It's really quite special at 4 a.m. And when the sun comes up, it's really kind of beautiful. So there'll be some people that really want that, and some people don't want that. So, we'll get you where you want to be. We want you all to have a beautiful experience. To be determined.
Okay.
Yeah. And I have a list of recipes that are very that fit all of those needs too. So if people want to reach out, be like, I have no idea what to make, I can be like, this can be made and this can be frozen and brought. So
yeah. Wow. I know somebody that, this is just wacky. I know somebody that, and the people coming from on the West Coast, you do not want to listen right now, but I know some people that made like a turkey dinner, like a Thanksgiving dinner, complete with frozen things and a cooked turkey, and brought it on an airplane. I didn't want to do this.
Oh my word.
Mm-hmm.
Good deal.
So the basic rundown for the schedule is Tuesday will be glazing and loading probably, and then Wednesday finish loading and start firing the kiln.
Probably. Does that sound right, Amy? I mean, you have to think about the cooling and how long your kiln cools.
Yes. Yeah, with the shorter firing, we should be totally fine for
Okay.
unloading on Monday.
If we glaze on Tuesday and start loading Wednesday,
Then we really want to look and make sure if you really think that we're getting the whole kiln cooked in 24 hours, like then we're fine. But I fire for 48 hours.
mhm.
Yeah, so that's my nerves talking, but like
Well, maybe we won't worry about this right now, and
yes.
you and I can talk about this.
Yes.
We'll figure this out. All right.
Typically, we've been able to get work prepped and load a third of the kiln on day one.
Okay.
And taking it leisurely. Yeah.
Perfect. Perfect then. So then we light up Wednesday whenever it's loaded.
Yeah.
Okay. Perfect. Well, I'm very excited. I'm really am looking forward to being with all of you. It's really quite a privilege for me to do this. So I'm very excited.
Yeah, I too am really excited to get to know all of you and to be able to spend a week together. It's going to be great.
Yeah.
So excited.
Yeah.
Thank
you.
And just to be clear, we aren't bringing anything for like wet clay type work, right? You guys are going to do demos on that, but we're not going to be making anything. So we're just bringing our to be fired items.
Linda,
Right.
I was assuming we were demoing. Did you want to have any participants make anything?
Do you have the ability to do that?
Not easily.
Not easily.
we can discuss amongst ourselves and see if that changes.
Uh-huh. Well, I'm happy to do anything. I mean, I'm open and willing to do anything. It's, I'm not sure how you advertise this. I guess I'm always aware that you want to, in general, stick to what people are expecting. I don't know.
Yeah, with no kiln at the site aside from the wood kiln, it's hard, and no way of reclaiming clay at the barn. It's probably better to say demos. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
So
As a hand builder, though, you certainly wouldn't need much.
this is true.
If you're hand building, you could certainly be pretty self-sufficient.
Yeah. No, if we can, and I know that like Anne Marie was there for the Make and Slake, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
I can talk to her about like the logistics of adding a making component to it if people are interested.
Yeah, I mean, if that can work out, I'm all for anything.
Cool.
I do have a few different slideshows too that I can work in with like I've got this one on wood kiln design. It's like a public service. If you want to make a wood kiln, what are the questions that you would ask yourself? And if you can answer these questions, it will lead to your design. I have that. And I have one on glazing from simple to complex. That doesn't necessarily have anything to do with wood kiln. I've got a lot of slideshows on with slides, and I can bring a slide projector if you want some historical things. I don't know, maybe I'll run some things by Amy and maybe she'll select some things or not, and I can bring it and we can watch it or not.
Well,
I'll just be prepared. I mean, if any of you have certain interests, I'd be happy to bring some historical things if I knew what you're interested in. I may have some college lectures that may be just up your alley. And some of you may love to sleep through it or go paddling on the river, and that's fine too. But I like to give you everything I can if I know what you want.
Any of those sound of particular interest to you all?
I might be interested in some of the historical lecture. Yeah, and definitely the glazing and wood kiln building.
Yeah,
Mhm.
wood kiln building would be awesome.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, and the glazing too. I think both of them would be very interesting.
Yeah.
glazing, okay. I think I have a real slideshow on constructing mini kilns, like what that looks like. I'll try to see if I can find that.
But what if you do your wood kiln thing and those of us with wood kilns figure out that we built the wrong thing?
You have lots of property, Amy. You can build another one.
Yeah, build another one. Yeah. That's right.
We have to build
That's-
another Amy then.
That's usually what happens with most people. We decide on a design and build it, and we hope it'll do a certain thing, and then it does something else actually, and then we adjust to it, and that becomes the way we work. And then the next kiln we try for something else, and I mean that's kind of how it goes. Although nowadays you can buy wood kiln designs, and you can take a workshop and learn how certain kilns fire, and then you can actually kind of duplicate it.
Yeah.
It didn't used to be like that. I didn't know one person that had a wood kiln. I knew one person, but I didn't really know him before I built my first kiln. It was terrible. It was awful.
Oh, goodness.
Yeah. Anyway, we'll have a lot of fun. We'll work hard. We'll laugh a lot. And I was thinking when the kiln's cooling, oftentimes people want to do something fun. And I didn't realize the river was so close. Could we go on a little paddle or a little float together? Is there a place we could rent canoes, or is there a thing there? Or
I will look into it. Yeah, because right on the river, I've got a kayak for two people, but then I know people, so we can borrow some, I'm sure. But if the water level is low, Anne Marie and I can attest to the fact that it's no fun.
Amy
Okay.
is really good at towing the kayak with you sitting in it like the queen. She just pulls it. Yeah, it's great.
Or a trip into the Art Institute. Can you take the train in and go to the Art Institute? Are we close to that? Or I don't know, it's just an idea. Or are there interesting potters around to go visit? Or
Yeah, Tom Turner is not far.
oh,
Yeah.
that's interesting. Wow.
I mean, and then Corey McCrory is 10-15 minutes away, and yeah, I can hook us up. Art Institute, there's an Amtrak line that goes directly downtown, but I don't know how, like, I don't know where it starts and ends and how reliable it is. Figure that out. But we could, we could also meet at a metro station a little bit further east. And I mean, there's river cruises and
River cruises.
I mean, like if we go downtown, there's architecture cruise and Art Institute would be a beautiful day. So
My niece works at the Art Institute. Maybe I'll ask her if she could get us into the pottery something.
we could go see some Korean pots. I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Her specialty is textiles. She's getting her PhD. I'm so proud of her.
Oh,
I just was at her wedding in Chicago on Sunday. She got married.
nice.
Yeah, she's something.
So
She's going to be a doctor.
That's cool.
Yeah. And her
I-
dad just had brain surgery a week before the wedding, and my husband and I were his caretakers at the wedding. I can't believe it. A week after brain surgery, he was at the wedding and not dancing, but giving the father's little speech and
Oh, good.
laughing, and it was pretty cool. I don't recommend it though. The brain surgery. Sorry, I'm sorry. I told you all about that.
Sounds lovely. All right. Well,
I need a little
looking
brain
forward
surgery.
to we can work out some of the other details, and yeah, hit us up with questions that you have.
Okay. Sounds
Thank
good.
you so
Thank
much.
you.
Really, really
Thank you
looking forward
so
to it.
much.
you.
I'm so
Thank
excited.
you. It's good seeing you guys
Yeah.
and meeting you guys.
Bye.
Bye.
All right. Take care.
Bye. Thank